Prick up your ears.
The sound of DTM.
My car sounds like music to my ears.
My favorite sound when the car is leaving the pits.
My favorite sound, the cheering of the fans. Crank it up. My favorite sound, the silence before the lights go green. Full blast. Downshifting from full speed. When I rev up my engine to its absolute limit.
Too close to cool. Cheering on the podium.
Be aware.
It's gonna be loud.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Nürburgring. We've got beautiful weather here for the 7th race weekend of the DTM season 2016 and it's hot. In fact, it is also the hot phase of the championship and I'm now here with Timo Scheider and Mike Rockenfeller, and you guys are not working on your town. No, you're actually ready for the race in just a bit. However, it's not running too smoothly. I mean, this season is pretty tough for you both. What do you think can we expect from you guys today? I mean, you're starting in P15 and P22. Do you have an ace up your sleeve?
Well, there's still some place to get, definitely. So we try hard and try to make some good moves and come to the point. This is for sure my target from P15, but yeah, like you just said, it's a hard season. We are fighting pretty hard every day for getting any positives out of this. But yeah, it's quite tricky today, I have to say.
And what about you, Rocky? What can we expect or hope from you?
Well, I guess from P22 you can't expect too much, especially on the Saturday race where you have no margin for any strategic moves. So you cannot really, do a pit stop. And Sunday is easier, let's say, to go forward when you are in the back. Let's see how the pace is. I just hope that I can show a good pace and overtake people. I mean, I don't have too much to lose back there, but like you said before, a very tough season. It seems that I struggle a lot with these kind of tires or cars, whatever the combination. So it's quite tough.
Well, best of luck for you two anyway. And before we have a look at the Nürburgring here, let's have a look back at Moscow.
What an answer that was from BMW, and from Marco Wittmann in particular. In the second race at Moscow Raceway, the 2014 DTM champion scored his second victory of the season and reclaimed the lead of the drivers' standings.
Fastest in free practice, pole position quali and the race win, so it was definitely a good Sunday.
The buoyant winner on Sunday, with this quadruple success for the brand from Munich. On Saturday, it was exactly the opposite. In the first race of the season held in the rain, Wittmann only ended up 19th. Mercedes was the benchmark in the wet. The brand with the star locked out the first 4 positions, led by Robert Wickens. The Canadian took the lead in the championship, but only for one night.
To own the whole podium, it doesn't happen very often, so we have to celebrate it tonight.
In the second race, Wickens kept his title hopes alive and still finished 5th in spite of technical problems. His fellow Mercedes-Benz driver and title candidate Paul de Resta finished last. For this manoeuvre against Glock, he was given a drive-through penalty.
Unfortunately, Timo spun, and I think because he didn't finish the race, they have to give me a penalty.
Audi was also dealt a blow in the battle for the title. Only team orders helped Green to finish 7th on Saturday. The one who suffered, Eduardo Mortara.
They asked me to let him by, and I did.
On Sunday, Mortara made a comeback as the best placed driver for the brand from Ingolstadt in 6th place. Green, battling for his maiden DTM title, only finished 21st after 2 drive-through penalties. Prior to the first race at the Nürburgring, he's now 12 points down on Wickens and 26 on points leader Wittmann.
Here I am with the leader of the championship, Marco Wittmann. Today you were also a little bit lucky because now you're starting in pole in the qualifying and you've got Tom Blomqvist right behind you to support you. So I guess for you it's going to be a sunny day today?
I hope so. I mean, we had already a good qualifying. Starting P2 or achieving P2 in qualifying was already for me a good result. Of course, with the penalty of Lucas, we got the top spot for the race. So it's always good to start from the front row, especially from P1. And now I'm looking forward to have a good race, and hopefully we can win it.
All right. Well, good luck, Marco. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Verena. And the penalty that Marco alluded to for Lucas Auer, brought about by the fact that he was adjudged to have blocked Nico Müller during the Moscow race. So Marco Wittmann up to P1, Tom Blomqvist alongside him is P2. Then we find Jamie Green and Eduardo Mortara. And then on the next row of the grid, it's Daniel Juncker-Deyer and Lucas Auer following that 5-place grid drop. Felix Rosenqvist goes from P7, another good qualifying from him, and Timo Glock, the former Formula 1 star, goes from P8. We find Bruno Spengler P9 and Paul de Resta is P10. Maxime Martin P11, Maximilian Goertz P12. To the 7th row of the grid where we find Robert Wickens, a lot of work to do from P13, and he has Gary Paffett P14. Then it's Timo Scheider and Christian Vitoris. Up next, it's Martin Tomczyk and Miguel Molina. Tomczyk, of course, announcing his retirement from DTM at the end of 2016. Matthias Ekström, Nico Müller, P19 and P20. With Antonio Felix da Costa, P21, and Mike Rockenfeller, former champ, P22. Then we see Adrien Tombe and Augusto Farfus. So Augusto Farfus at the back for BMW. At the front for BMW with Verena now is Jens Marquardt.
I'm here with a very happy Jens Marquardt. You seem to be in very good spirits. No wonder you've got your best man, Marco, in pole, supported by Blomqvist in 2. And all in all, the sun is shining, so I guess today you're hoping for a victory.
Well, I mean, obviously we're in a good position right now before the race. Hopefully the same or similar after the race. But yeah, I mean, fantastic weather here, lots of people here. So I think we can all look forward to a very exciting race. And starting from 1 and 2 is never a bad thing, but we all know the race is 40 minutes and it's going to be really tough and tight. It was super tight in qualifying, and I'm sure it will be like that in the race. So yeah, I have full confidence in Marco. He's really this year the man without mistakes, and I count on him not making any mistakes today. That's going to be the key, and yeah, I think he's got it, so we'll see.
And in regards to the championship, I guess it's also good to know that the main competitor is way in the back.
Well, yeah, Wickens is a bit further back, but for sure Mercedes will do everything to help him up front. I mean, Edo and Jamie are right behind, so they are also quite good in the championship. So there is no relaxation or anything. It will be tight for 40 minutes.
I bet. Well, best of luck. Thank you so much, Jens Marquardt. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena, very much. And Jens is absolutely right. You know, P3, P4 in the championship, Jamie Green and Eduardo Mortara, and they're starting on the 2nd row of the grid as we look at Bruno Spengler then, who is going from P9, final stages of preparation for Bruno then, as he gets ready to jump into the car. And alongside me from the motorsportarchive.com is Leo Gorman. It's going to be a fascinating race as we look at Timo Glock now going from P8.
It's going to be a fascinating race, Dave, but I'll tell you something else. A lot of this will come down to the start.
First corner.
First corner, and you know, as we mentioned in other races for this weekend, there's also the feed going through turn 2 and turn 3 because there's multiple lines, racing lines into that corner. But yeah, you're right. Turn 1 is going to be the key. Plus the guys who are actually on the left-hand side of the grid, because that's the racing line, like Felix Rosenqvist, starting P7 for Mercedes in his second race weekend.
What an impressive debut he's made in DTM. Felix Rosenqvist, who is, of course, the current FIA Formula 3 European champion, confirmed for this round. And Lucas Auer, what pace he had in qualifying. Now, under the totting up procedure, he took his 3rd warning at Moscow, which meant that he carried over a grid drop for this race. So, regrettably, despite the pace that Lucas Auer showed in terms of gaining pole position, he didn't get pole position. He was fastest in qualifying, but sadly, he goes back to P6 on the grid. And P5 is Mercedes driver Daniel Juncker-Deyer. So, fascinating race in prospect. as we take a brilliant heli shot of the Nürburgring. There, the grid. Wittmann, Blomqvist, then Green, Mortara, Juncker, Auer, Rosenquist, Glock, Spengler, De Resta, Martin and Gertz, the top 12 drivers on the grid for race 13. It's the 50th appearance of the DTM here at the Nürburgring. P13 for Robert Wickens. Gary Paffett, then P14, then it's Scheider, Vitoris, Tomczyk, Molina, Ekstrom, Muller, Felix da Costa, Rockefeller, Tom Bay and Augusto Farfus.
I'll tell you something, Dave, if you're Audi, you're going to be happy that you got 2 guys in P3 and P4, but you're also going to be disappointed that your other 6 drivers are in the bottom half of the grid. Ideally, you want more drivers up there, obviously not just to get top results, but also Jamie Green going for the championship. He's relying on his teammates to a degree to kind of provide backup and competition for the other manufacturers. But if they're back there,
can't help him.
Yeah, it's just Jamie and Eduardo up there.
Well, Jamie would be the first to tell you I'm very happy to fight my own battles, and you can bet that he is going to be very aggressive going into turn number 1. Let's hear from the chief of Mercedes-Benz DTM now. Uli Fritz is with Verena.
So Uli Fritz, I guess no question about it, it's going to be a tough race. Your best man, Robert Wickens in P13, and Auer lost the pole due to the penalty in Moscow. You can't do too much with strategy because we've got no pit stops, so how tough is it going to be today for you?
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, over the whole weekend up to now, we showed that the car is competitive. And in qualifying, we just didn't bring it really together. I mean, on the other hand, Lucas achieved pole position but got a penalty. So, yeah, really sad. I mean, we have Dani and Luki on P5, 6, and then Felix on P7, who really did a great job again. So, yeah, we need to make the best out of it, but obviously it's going to be tough.
I bet it will. Thank you so much, Uli Fritz. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Robert Wickens then, going from all the way back there as he is in P13. He is second in the championship on 118 points, where Marco Wittmann, who's going from his elevated pole position then on 130 points. It's rubbing his hands with invisible soap, I should think, Marco Wittmann, at the opportunity that he has been given. There is the Drivers' Championship. Reinforcing what I've just said, 130 points for Marco Wittmann. It's 118 for Robert Wickens. Then it's Jamie Green and Eduardo Mortara, P3 and P4 in the points, and P3 and P4 on the grid as well.
I think for Wickens is in the worst possible position in a sense for a driver who's in the championship. He knows he's got to do a great race himself to get the best result possible, to get the most points available. But he's also having to think, well, I hope something happens to Marco up front so that there's not too much damage in the championship. And when you're fighting that kind of battle, it's tough. You're kind of on the wrong side of a battle when it comes to that stage.
And of course, what he's also thinking is that, of course, Green and Mortara are much higher up in the order. Dieter Gas from Audi is with Verena now.
Hello there. So now it's going to be interesting in this race today. You've got Green and Mortara in the front, but I guess it's going to be the most important to get one of them by Blomqvist, or what is the main aim for you?
Well, I think the most important thing is to have a clean run through the first corner, because that's going to be very tight, always on the Nürburgring. We have the 2 cars there which are running in the championship up there, and the main focus must be to get home some good points. I think after that we worry about overtaking others if we can.
But on the other hand, it is in the hot phase of the championship, and we are looking at the title, and you've got 2 contenders in the front fighting for the championship.
Absolutely, yes, but still it's not only the outright victory. We have seen you have to collect consistent and good points, and with P3 and 4 on the grid, in theory these are good points. That's why I say important is to keep that. If we can improve, even better.
All right, well, best of luck, thank you very much. And speaking of hot phase, we've got to run. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena, very much. So, yes, what Dieter Gas was saying is, of course, absolutely right. What he doesn't want is for Green and Mortara to be perhaps too aggressive going into turn 1. Coming together, damage, they would be better off banking points for P3 and for P4 than they would in terms of wrecking the cars.
But what they're also thinking as well is they don't necessarily want to get into a battle with each other, because if Wittmann and Blomqvist get good starts, it could see the BMW guys just get in, go into the distance, while the 2 Audi guys fighting over that last podium position. They're going to be gunning for that lead.
But the point you made is the cars are released on their formation lap is Green is going to be on the effectively the best side of the circuit.
Potentially, yes. And not just that, but also this is going to be a battle for who can break the latest into turn 1 without running too wide. Because you don't want to be going too, as you can see on the screen there, you don't want to be going too far into turn 1 because you go into the runoff area where it's dirty and there's lots of little kind of gubbins and little bits of rubber that are littered all over that area, and that gets you tyres dirty, and suddenly you're losing traction, you can't get back up to speed, and you end up losing positions if you do that. So banking it where you can go deep, but not too deep, that's where this race could be won.
Equally, to play devil's advocate here, you can use that runoff area in turn 1 if you don't go too deep as a huge advantage.
Absolutely, and that gets you a nice little launch into turn 2, and then which curves into double left into 3 and 4.
Brilliant heli shot of us going around turn number 5 now. Before they reach the banked sections of the circuit, which are turn 6 and turn 7, they're banked on different sides, so there's a real change as we're on board with Robert Wickens then as he really pushes his Mercedes-Benz, and then they drop down to the Bilstein bit curver, and there is the 3.629 kilometer Nürburgring circuit in full, and this race, of course, the shorter race of the 2 DTM races across any given weekend now.
And it's the 11-turn circuit, Dave, so there's you know, we've got some very slow hairpins, but we also have a couple of quick corners as well. You want to be able to maintain, if you're chasing someone for a position, you want to be able to stay close to the quick corners, but also be close enough in the slow corners and maybe pressure someone into a mistake.
Okay, Uli Fritz then, the tension in the Mercedes-Benz garage, as you can imagine.
So coming up onto the grid now, and you can see they're doing little mini burnouts as well to make sure there's enough tyre temperature in the tyres.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Marco Wittmann being guided into his pit box, to his grid box then to make sure it's absolutely accurate. And the start is just seconds away then as the final cars make their way onto the back of the grid. There is Dieter Gas to the left, and of course Wolfgang Ulrich in the Audi pit garage. And the scene is set. There's Eduardo Mortara. And Blomqvist then told that the last car is on the grid, so we await the green flag from the marshal at the rear. Then the start sequence can get underway. And there it is, the green flag. We're about to go racing. It is race 13 in the DTM calendar for 2016. Marco Wittmann on pole position. Watch Jamie Green right behind him. Oh, and it's a long while before the lights went out there, and Jamie Green did not get a brilliant start. Look at Scott going through the earlies. Absolutely brilliant. Now Green tries it around the outside to make back that lost place, and he's done so. Great move by Jamie Green to get that back, but Daniel Juncadella, what a start for him. He goes into P4, so Wittmann then is away up the road. Blomqvist acting as his wingman. Mortara having a go at Juncadella as well.
I think Mortara may have got him. He's got him into turn 3, and it's filtered out into turn 4, and suddenly it's Wittmann, Blomqvist, Juncadella, or Green, and then Mortara.
So Juncadella then as Bruno Spengler for company right behind him. So as the rest of the cars, Maxime Martin on the outside there of Robert Wickens. As the cars all fielding through on this opening lap of the DTM race, and the shorter race, just 40 minutes plus 1 lap. Marco Wittmann doing everything that he needed to do right at the start of the race, and he is up the road now. Tom Blomqvist P2, then it is Jamie Green P3, then Eduardo Mortara in P4 before we see Daniel Juncadella. Then it's Bruno Spengler.
And Wittmann, over the first 2 sectors of that lap, has already pulled out almost a second gap over Tom Blomqvist.
DRS active.
So Jamie Green being advised that DRS is active then. This is the man that's got lots and lots of work to do, Robert Wickens, to move as far up the order as he can. So Wittmann crosses the timing line and heads down into turn number 1 with Tom Blomqvist P2. Now, just taking a look at the inside of Bruno Spengler, there was Lucas Auer, who of course was put back. He was fastest in qualifying, but took that grid drop.
And lots of position to Spengler off the line as well.
Green now right on the back of Tom Blomqvist as he ups the ante. He's currently running in P3 and sits P3 in the championship going into this race. So if he can find his way past Tom Blomqvist, who of course will do a brilliant defensive job for Marco Wittmann, his brand teammate ahead of him. So we stay on board with Jamie Green then.
Green goes well out wide on a switchback between 6 and 7 now as they flick onto the latter section of the circuit.
DRS goes down, but of course Tom Blomqvist also has DRS, so he's able to use his DRS as a defensive tool against Jamie Green's DRS, which of course is being used to attack as he gets right onto the back of the BMW now, running through the NGK chicane. This is fantastic stuff. What can Jamie Green do to try and reel in? Now, what's crucial for Blomqvist in terms of his DRS, he's got to stay within a window of Wittmann ahead, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, he loses that DRS, which would give Jamie Green a huge advantage. 5/10 is what Wittmann has on Blomqvist, which is working nicely for Tom Blomqvist at the moment.
The problem for Green is when he went out wide through turn 6 and turn 7, and he actually dropped a couple of tenths of a second, which has put him too far back from Blomqvist to actually make an effort going into the start-finish straight. And that's what we were saying all week. That's what we've been saying all weekend, Dave. You don't just make an overtake into turn 1. You have to plan it almost corners in advance to get close enough to then make the move later on.
Here's Robert Wickens then, who's, well, into a points-paying position in P10. He's got Paul di Resta ahead of him, and dare I say it, I don't think Paul di Resta will be too stoic in his defence of his P9 position if Robert Wickens gets close enough to him. But then ahead of him, he's got Glock and Auer and Spengler and Juncker. So Robert Wickens with a lot of work to do over the next 36 minutes.
Rob is going to be a man on a mission for the next 14 minutes or so. Now, this is a tale of two starts. You got Juncker makes a wonderful start, Hours slightly slow away, but what a move by Juncker, and it was just P3 only for a few moments, but it was a wonderful start and splitting the Audis beautifully.
Mortara, look, was out on that there. Well, there you can see the start reaction. The graphics are there. Mortara was very nearly on the grass, wasn't he?
And Auer went down the inside, but he actually probably took the first corner a little bit too tight, lost a little bit of speed through turn 1, which gave Spengler the opportunity to retake P6.
Let's go on board with Eduardo Mortara then and see it from inside his car and there was a touch. I thought there was a touch from Daniel Juncker, and sure enough there was, and that was where Edo nearly got put onto the grass. Well, he got the place back, of course, but
it's no problem. I'll let Robert by when he's behind. Don't worry about that. Let me battle for now.
Well, what did I say just a few moments ago?
I think the door...
Copy.
The door is slightly ajar, shall we say.
Yes. Well, there, and that's how hard Robert Wickens is going to race. That was him on Maxime Martin. And there you can see, look, the reaction in the Audi garages, the reaction in the BMW garage.
The thing now, Dave, for Wickens, it's one thing to get P9, and that's good, that's 2 points, but he needs more than that, because Wittmann out front, that's 25 points for a win. He should have stayed like this for the next 35 minutes or so.
Absolutely. So there is the Euronics liveried car of Gary Paffett, which is running P12. Got the Maxime Martin car there. And the cars all make their way through the chicane. Wittmann then with 8 tenths, which crucially keeps Tom Blomqvist in his DRS window. Then it's Jamie Green, Eduardo Mortara, Juncker, Spengler, Auer, Glock, di Resta and Wickens.
Green needs to get closer, and here we have an incident. It's Paffett
and Martin, isn't it?
Martin, yeah, and they go wheel banging, a little bit more than wheel banging, going to turn 1. I'm sure we'll probably see some sort of investigation there. They didn't actually just even bang doors. I think they exchanged phone numbers while they were at it as well.
Well, certainly Martin, by taking that corner, Wickens has got, Paffett has got nothing to do other than go into that runoff area to avoid an even greater collision, if you like. So Wittmann then leading by 8 tenths. There's Timo Glock, who's running in P8 at the moment. Ahead of him is the all-pink car of Lucas Auer.
Oh, and what a slide there by Glock as they came through turn 6. And that I was saying earlier on, he's really losing a lot of it when they slide by that amount through turn 6.
Well, that has allowed Paul di Resta to get just a little bit closer to Timo Glock. And it's as we were then with Wittmann, Blomqvist, Green and Mortara.
Now, if Mercedes were a little clever, shall we say, in inverted commas, and here we see Gluck almost losing the back end. See how much that slides out. And Auer did so to a lesser degree in the same corner. Okay, the rest is not close enough this time. But
no, it's not.
He could, if you were Mercedes, you might say, well, if you're going to go for a move on Gluck, maybe just hold the door slightly open for Robert to go through as well.
But of course, Robert is too far back at the moment, isn't he?
It has to be. It has to be two. Both cars would have to play that game.
Lucas Auer would have to stack them up, wouldn't he? Which at the moment he's not doing that. So there is Robert Wickens, then the man that we are talking about, who's currently running in P10 and pushing that car for all it is worth. Robert Wickens then driving, of course, for the HWA team and driving for his life in terms of championship points, knowing that Marco Wittmann is right up there, and Robert Wickens under investigation for an unsafe start in the formation lap.
That's an unusual. I don't really see messages like that coming up on the start on the screen every so often, but at least it's different. It's not track limits this week, is it?
No, and track limits isn't seemingly an issue here at the Nürburgring. So he's going to be reported to the stewards of the meeting for that unsafe start in the formation lap. I don't understand that. We'll find out more. So we are not going to worry about that in the race, and he is still going to be pushing just as hard as he can, as is every other driver at the sharp end of this race at the moment. Wittmann then 9/10 over Tom Blomqvist, just keeping it nicely within that DRS window. Jamie Green seemingly is not able to get too close to that BMW of Blomqvist at the moment. He's a further 7/10 back.
But one little battle that does seem to be heating up, shall we say, is Bruno Spengler, half a second now behind Danny Juncadella. Juncadella, after what was a wonderful start, dropped back into P5 and is now possibly going to be under pressure soon from the BMW man behind him.
Well, let's see how that develops. On board we go then with Robert Wickens then.
Tell you something, Dave. We kind of jokingly mentioned track limits earlier on. We've a lot.
Green 10, DRS remaining same as you. 10 remaining same as you.
Of course, that's a valid point because the DRS usages are restricted in the races now. So you only have a certain amount, and that was being reported so that Blomqvist knows how many he's got to defend against Jamie Green. And Jamie Green, sadly, for our entertainment purposes, if you like, does not have a number of DRSs over Blomqvist. They're matched in terms of the number that they have. So
it's a balance, Dave. Blomqvist now actually has fallen out of the DRS zone from Wittmann in front of him, and this could be what Green needs to actually really latch on to his fellow Briton maybe on the back end of the circuit to draw him right up behind the BMW driver.
Well, he's certainly a bit closer than he was. He's Jamie Green, so we keep our eyes on that little battle that's going on over P2 at the moment. There's Bruno Spengler reeling in Daniel Juncadella. Mercedes driver there that is running in P5.
And just as going back to something I kind of mentioned just as jokingly a few moments ago, track limits, not really an issue here, because as you see, as with Zandvoort several weeks ago, this is a circuit that has a lot of gravel and grass around lining the edge of the circuit. So if you do go off, as you see on the picture here, as they're coming out of turn 7, if you do make a mistake and go off, you lose lots and lots and lots of time. Possibly you could even have a spin. You can't afford to go too far offline here and make a mistake.
Okay, here's Green lining him up now, and is Timo Glock lining up?
Glock, he's on Auer's rear, isn't he?
Yeah. I was more interested really in the fact that Jamie Green was ever closer to...
Auer really made a couple of changes of direction there. I think that's something the stewards probably might actually have a look at. It's not a style of driving, shall we say, that is often looked upon with great merit. But Glock trying to go down the inside, doesn't quite work. Auer blocks. He's locked his tyres, but he's going around the outside of turn 1 anyway.
Brilliant overtake from Timo Glock, proving that you can do it there by going around the outside. He carried the speed through, didn't he? and has made it work. And now
here comes Di Resta. Here comes Di Resta. He's through now into P8. His hour drops another position. Oh, it's Farfus. Farfus a spin from P22.
Okay, Rob. Gap to the car in front is 3.7.
So Robert Wickens being advised what he needs to do. So Augusto Farfus, then we saw pirouetting. He has managed to get it back out on track, but that was a brilliant overtake from Timo Glock. He went for the inside initially, didn't he? That was blocked by Lucas Au. Then he had what, from the original angle, looked like a huge lockup. Clearly not that huge, and he was able to maintain the speed, and around the outside he went. So, there we see it again in replay.
Understood. Understood.
Absolutely fantastic driving from Timo Glock. Right.
Green 7 DRS left. Green 7 DRS left. Very good job. Very good move.
Glock being congratulated for his move, and here comes Jamie Green that we're on board with now, right onto, very nearly onto the rear wing of the Tom Blomqvist car. Now through turn 2 he goes. We're into the Mercedes arena here, continuing to track that BMW, but seemingly not just quite having enough to get close enough to mount a real challenge. Tom Blomqvist doing a good job in defence.
Green needs to get closer. That's simple. That's what it comes down to. Green needs to get closer coming out of the final corner. And Farfus was thwacked, shall we say.
Yes, he was supported into that move, wasn't he, unfortunately? And
Adrian Tambay, unfortunately, just tagged the right rear of the BMW Farfus car through turn 1. It's an unfortunate little error, probably not on, if we're to be fair. And
Tombe is out, as you can see.
And I do wonder maybe if he damaged part of the suspension.
Saw some of the aero flicks coming off as well, so Tombe out of the race, and that incident is under investigation. So Wickens then saying that he needs help.
That's the rear of Tom Blomqvist's car. It's close, but is it close enough? As Blomqvist takes a slightly wider line through the final corner, but that gets him a nice little boost onto the start-finish straight.
So there is our race leader, Marco Wittmann, then, who's doing everything just right. And Tom Blomqvist then running in P2 as Jamie Green now gets closer once again, going through turn number 1.
And as noted, where Blomqvist took a wider line through that final corner to get a greater shoot onto the start-finish straight, he actually pulled 0.2 of a second in those last couple of corners alone.
Well, Robert Wickens then and Maxime Martin. So Martin is looking lively, isn't he? There's Gary Paffett.
It's a curious situation there. For Robert Wickens, for some strange reason, the pace just simply isn't there in this race. He's doing late 25s, 26s, where all the other drivers ahead of him are in the 125.0s, the 125.1s, etc. He's losing an awful lot of time. He's already 4.5 seconds behind Lucas Au.
What we have to bear in mind, though, of course, is that the Mercedes-Benz is the heaviest car as well.
Absolutely, it is indeed. It is indeed.
You know, that runs at 1130 kilos.
And BMW, of course, that's tracking Wickens for the 10th position is 12.5 kilos lighter.
Yeah, makes a difference, doesn't it? So Wittmann then 2 seconds ahead of Tom Blomqvist. Then it's Jamie Green, Eduardo Mortara, Daniel Cadea, Bruno Spengler. That's the order then as they cross the timing line now.
Timo, Bruno in front has 5 more laps DRS. Bruno in front, 5 more laps DRS.
So Bruno Spengler then with the DRS advantage over Timo Glock. Jamie Green now is just beginning to fall into the clutches of Eduardo Mortara. Now, bearing in mind that the position they're in at the track at the moment is, from a points point of view, Jamie Green is leading Eduardo Mortara, and that's also the case out there on track, because Green is P3, and Mortara, who we're on board with now, is P4. So, has Edo got a bit more pace than Jamie Green? Is he going to be able to depose Tom Blomqvist? Is he going to be allowed to go past and have a go?
It'd be interesting to hear how many DRS options Edo Mortara has, because he's not actually really been in a battle as such with anyone as of yet, whereas Green has probably used an awful lot of his DRS so far trying to get past Blomqvist.
Well, there's just 0.4 between Green and Mortara. And there's Eduardo Mortara going for a move on Jamie Green now, and I don't think this is going to be too defended. No, it's not. So Eduardo Mortara does go through into the chicane. We're on board with Jamie Green, looking at the back of the Eduardo Mortara car, who will now get the chase on to Tom Blomqvist.
And for people who look at that, it's probably just to understand. Green has had several laps now, nearly 12 laps.
We need to stay focused and stay close to Edo.
Okay, and that's interesting too. Edo's had Green's had 12 laps to try and get Blomqvist, hasn't actually managed it yet. The Audi guys have probably got onto both Green and Mortara and said, look, Mortara has fresh DRS. Let him have a go on Blomqvist for P2, and as we were mentioned earlier on with the Mercedes for P8, P9, P10. If you can get past Blomqvist and hold the door open, it might allow Green to go through. But again, the Audi guys have to work in tandem.
Well, Edo is through and has already made up quite a few tenths. We're on board with Robert Wickens then, who has lost out to Maxime Martin and has now got Gary Paffett pushing him for all he's worth. So you're absolutely right. Wickens just doesn't appear to have the pace in this race, does he? We've got 22 minutes of the race remaining.
Gap to the car behind is 0.6, and the gap to Edo is 0.7.
So that, in replay, was how Martin did it on Wickens.
Although I do wonder, maybe did he go too far onto the runoff area? Maybe take too much of advantage? Because Maxine's clearly outbraked himself, but at the same time, he's got... yeah, it's a tricky one to call. And Paffett getting into the back.
It's Timo Scheider.
Oh, sorry, Timo, yeah, it's getting into the back of Timo Scheider. So Paffett's dropped back another couple of positions. And I do wonder, is there something wrong possibly with... it looks like Paffett lost almost a second in that sector.
He's got Maximilian Gertz and Felix Rosenqvist right behind him as well.
Paffett, there's a 1 minute 28.4 lap from Paffett. Everyone around him was doing early 27s or late 26s, so maybe there's something going off there on Paffett's car. But it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, you got Paffett, who we know is quick. You got Wickens, who we know is quick. He's second in the championship. Yet they're in the pack, the middle of the pack, and they're seemingly struggling at this stage of the race.
So
gap to Edo now is 1.1, so if possible close the gap to under 1 second.
Put this in.
What they want to do is get back in that DRS window, don't they? So if Edo is able to, as you say, make his move on Blomqvist, he's within the DRS window of Tom Blomqvist. But we continue to watch this battle, which is going on as well. But Wittmann is the one that's pretty comfortable at the moment because he's got 2.5 second margin on Tom Blomqvist as we watch them now split the timing beam. But Eduardo Mortara's getting ever closer to Tom Blomqvist now.
0.4 of a second coming across the line. Will he make a move into turn 1 this time? I don't think he's quite close enough. But here comes Junkadea on green for P4. Trying around the outside, don't think it's going to work quite yet, but it might give him a move or a little bit of a launch into turns 2 and 3 as Danny Junkadea goes a little bit wide, and he has the inside line and takes P4 from Jamie Green.
He kept the momentum, and Jamie Green had to allow him racing room, which he did. He was perfectly fair about that because Junkadea was coming back come what may, and Junkadea has moved up that place and has taken P4 away from Jamie Green. So from that point of view, the Audi strategy hasn't worked.
That wasn't in their playbook at all, was it?
So Daniel Junkadea, now going back to what you were saying a few moments ago, talking about Wickens and
here's why. Green's gone wide.
Junkadea is behind you.
Oh, and he's lost an awful lot of time because not only has he gone over the curbing, he's lost an awful lot of traction coming out. Yeah. He's wider than he should be when he finally does regain his place on track. Oh, and Mortara!
Whoa,
Mortara on Blomqvist. He's tried, and it looks like they've actually collided.
Now, this is going to be really interesting because Mortara's going to have to give that place back.
Are they damaged, though? Is he damaged?
Look, Junkadea is going to take advantage of that as well.
Around the outside of the final corner, and I think I think he may actually have third place here, but he could even Junkadea maybe even be on for second place here if he stays close to the BMW ahead of him.
So Eduardo Mortara now at the inside of Tom Blomqvist.
And they collect. I think Juncadella is going to try and go down the inside of turn 1, maybe get a launch into turn 2. Doesn't quite work there.
So Eduardo Mortara now is being hung out to dry. There's some panel rubbing between himself and Daniel Juncadella, as there has been. And, well, that was all brought about. There comes Jamie Green fighting back as well.
Around the outside.
Fantastic.
And there is Spengler there as well. He's trying to get a move on Green, who's run off slightly wide by trying to take Mortara and Juncadella.
Well, he is right alongside Juncadella. Bruno Spengler is in there as well.
Oh,
and around goes Juncadella.
Well.
Oh. And Spengler there, really out the back end of the Spengler car.
Well done, as usual.
Well,
14 laps. You are fighting, so just keep it clean. You cannot continue. Doing a very good job.
Well, about 20 radio messages all at the same time there, but look how angry Daniel Juncadella is.
And of course, some rather fruity language, unfortunately.
Yes, for which we
there.
apologise for any language that comes from the team radio, as Timo Glock now.
He's got Spengler now.
Yes,
Surely he's got Spengler now. Spengler was very much on the wrong line. He overshot the entrance into the chicane there, and it's given Glock lots.
Mortara has 6 DRS remaining. 6 DRS remaining.
And just to add to the excitement,
this is Paffett and Scheider. Oh,
it's me.
Gary's going to be very, very, very angry with that. That's unnecessary, and I think we can almost certainly say there's going to be an investigation into that at least. But I think that's frankly unnecessary.
Well, yeah, Timo Scheider and Gary Paffett, that of course going on, whilst there was plenty of other incidents going on as well that we were trying to keep abreast of. So here is Eduardo Mortara and Tom Blomqvist, and this really is what started that whole sequence, isn't it? Because Edo had to shortcut there. I don't think he did damage, and I think that's why he immediately gave the place back, because he knew he was going to have to yield that place back.
I am not.
Blomqvist can use 3 laps with DRS more than you.
All these replays, absolutely brilliant. Look.
So I just wonder, maybe was there winglet possibly damage or possibly? But also, I think Blomqvist, even though he was slowed, has made the chicane. Mortara, he's gone over a bit of the grass, he's gone over a bit of runoff area, he got dirt in his tyres, and I think he probably just didn't have the traction exiting the chicane to keep Blomqvist behind.
And this is where they touch, as you can see. And I'm just looking to see whether any of those aero flicks at the front come off the car of Eduardo Mortara.
I think this is late. This is into turn 1, I believe, later on, where they were still battling because.
Verena is in the pits with Uli Fritz. Let's hear from her now.
Yeah, we saw a lot of action there just now with Mercedes-Benz. Juncadella maybe a bit too bold, and then the number with Gary Paffett. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I have to say, it's just disappointing. I mean, Danny had a great pace. It was, I think, a fair fight with the Audis in front, and yeah, there was certainly everything possible for him, and then just Bruno just hit him and took him out of the race, and it's obviously the same thing with our friend Mr. Scheider, who just took out Gary Paffett. It's just unacceptable, but what can we do?
We'll see what the marshals say about that. And now in regards to Robert Wickens, he's your main man. He's, fighting for the championship. In the beginning, in the start, he managed to overtake and he did really well, but now it seems like he's struggling a bit. He's over a second slower than the guys in the front. Is he struggling with something?
Yeah, absolutely. He's just struggling with the pace of the car at the moment. Yeah, it's difficult to say during the race. We have to analyze afterwards really carefully. But certainly the weights don't help us at the moment. So yeah, he's really struggling and just need to back the best out of it.
By the way, we just found out drive-through penalty for Bruno Spengler, so at least that. But now, good luck for the rest of the race, and back to you.
So Bruno Spengler then does get a drive-through penalty. Thank you very much, Verena, and he gets the drive-through penalty for that incident. Well, if he gets a drive-through for that, don't be surprised that the next mention is for Timo Scheider, but it doesn't help Daniel Juncadella, does it? And that is the problem.
That's Uli Fritz is going to be, yeah, great, fair enough. He's got a drive-through penalty. Yeah. Well, our guy's still down in 22nd and out of the race.
Okay, so let's get back. What have we got? 13 and 3/4 minutes left to run. It's Wittmann, Blomqvist, Mortara and Green with Timo Glock P5. Now Bruno Spengler P6, who's got a drive-through penalty, so it's academic. Oh, it's Scheider now. has a go at Robert Wickens. Now, Scheider does get that drive-through penalty that we were, to be honest, knew that was coming, didn't we? But Robert Wickens is having to defend from Timo Scheider now. To be honest, in this position, they should tell him, Scheider's got a drive-through penalty. Just let him go by, because it's completely academic, isn't it? Don't fight with him. Isn't going to help.
And the aspect about that is don't fight with him is, well, you're not risking your tyres, you're not risking the possibility of an incident yourself, or maybe even damaging your car. Yes, ideally, I mean...
Timo, box, drive-through, box, drive-through.
Well, Scheider being advised then of his drive-through penalty. And he follows Robert Wickens now into the chicane. And it's sticking right with him. Is Scheider going to take that drive-through now?
No. And I wonder as well just how aware Scheider was of that. The penalty, the possibility of getting the penalty from the moment he actually collided with Paffett.
How could he not be aware? He's a racing driver that's been around for years. Do you know what I mean? That ain't going to go unpunished, is it?
Racing drivers are never wrong, Dave. We know that.
No. OK, and Robert does the sensible thing. Just let Scheider go by, because he knows he's going to have to take drive-through penalty. And as you rightly say, what's the point in fighting with him and taking more out of your tyres? Protect the position that you're in.
Thing is now, Dave, 12 minutes left in this race, and we're beginning to see drivers run out of DRS.
Oh, already, Spengler, Scheider, Tomczyk, Da Costa, all without DRS now. Wittmann, 7 seconds up the road over Blomqvist. So,
and I think to be fair to Wittmann as well, he gained a fair chunk of that when Blomqvist, Mortara and Green, etc. were all having their...
Okay, Timo, great job, buddy, great job. You're quick, but we need to do it.
Well, Scheider being reminded of that drive-through penalty. Of course, he's running in P10 now, which is the final points-paying position, but it's academic because he's good at drive-through to come. So Robert Wickens will go back into that P10. And now Matthias Ekström, who we've not even spoken about, is P13 and chasing down Maximilian Gertz.
But a bizarre weekend for Eki, hasn't it? It's been a bit...
anonymous.
Yeah, he's not really been there.
So here is Scheider then, who breaks, and
Spengler coming in first.
Yes, they both take their drive-through penalties at the same time. And this is the reason.
I mean, that's...
Come on.
That's silly. It really is silly. There's a point when you shouldn't make mistakes like that, and there's an awareness too.
Well, we've lost Tombe, and Scheider is now going to be right at the back, isn't he, because of that drive-through penalty. Here's our race leader, Marco Wittmann. 7.2 seconds to the good. Look at this. He's heading towards the chicane now before the P2 driver is even going through turn number 8. The P2 driver being Blomqvist. There is Eduardo Mortara. Jamie Green then is P4. So despite Mortara having gone past Green, is not really... I mean, Blomqvist's pace is such that he's been able to protect the position that he's in. Now, Mortara last time around was 4/10 quicker, but he hasn't been able to do anything with it. Here comes Matthias Ekström then on Maximilian Gertz. He's looking at the inside. There's going to be contact here, that's for sure. Look at them there, but one is across the grass going in, one is across the grass going out, and is Nico Müller going to be able to take advantage of this, and Felix Rosenqvist as well, who might get punished for crossing the white line in the in. Oh my goodness me!
You don't do that in racing anymore. They have to stay fully onto the circuit, and that white line defining the pit lane entrance is a no-go area. But that was a bit of a clumsy move there from Eki, but possibly maybe a last dash gasp kind of attempt of an overtake.
Well, as a heli shot here shows the battling continuing between Martin Tomczyk and Nico Müller, and just joining and trying to join in the party there is Christian Vitoris, and Mike Rockefeller's not so far behind either. Of course, Martin Tomczyk would like to end his DTM career on a high. Here was the move from Matthias Ekström then. He might argue that, you know, Maximilian Gertz didn't give him room. Well, the argument is, was there a gap there in the first place? And
no.
Actually, I don't think there was, but...
I mean, Maxi's taken that line long before he's actually got to the apex. And
Eki is flying across the curbs.
There's a point where a driver has to turn in. He could be on the defensive line, but at some point he actually has to turn in the car.
Well,
I mean, I don't particularly think anything's really going to happen of it, but it's the kind of thing where you go to your two drivers and you kind of you wag the finger at them and say, "Now, boys, come on, don't be doing things like that. These are expensive cars," you know.
Well, that incident is under investigation. Any penalties will, of course, bring you, and I'm just curious to see whether Blomqvist's getting black and white flag.
Now that's interesting. Is that for the incident with Mortara?
Possibly.
That is quite interesting, and it's. I mean, I would love to see additional camera views, because obviously what may not be necessarily obvious to the people viewing at home is we have the replays that we show you, we have the monitors in here with all the pictures the TV director will show us, but actual race control, the steward's office will have cameras from every conceivable angle, and they will have a better grasp or a better view sometimes of what we necessarily see in the broadcasts. So maybe there's something in that they saw that we didn't.
Perhaps so. So the black and white flag then, so Felix Rosenqvist there and Matthias Ekström, and Felix Rosenqvist has got by him, and Martin Tomczyk having a go as well. There is Robert Wickens, who's P9.
5.5 seconds, so 3 seconds behind Maxime Martin, P8.
Christian Vitoris now having a go at Martin Tomczyk. And Matthias Ekström really dropping back now as Mike Rockenfeller goes through.
Rocky just behind him, and there's another going to be a door banging. Oh, actually, no, that was very, very, very clean from...
Eki goes for another grass-cutting session.
I think Eki's rallying career is...
Rallycross, yes. He's dived into the pit lane now. We've got 6 3/4 minutes left. My goodness me, talk about so much going on. Felix Rosenqvist then chasing down Nico Müller. Here comes Matthias Ekström.
So we got Vitoris, Tomczyk and Rockenfeller all so close coming across the line, but you know, battling for P13, P14, P15. And I don't think if you'd approached those drivers at the start of the weekend and asked them where they would be in race one, I don't think that would be the answer they were giving. As Tomczyk absolutely letting the back of the car slide as he came out through turn 2, and Rocky goes through. Tomczyk lost quite a bit of speed, and actually I think he's going to lose another position as well, as Molina is coming through and down into turn 5. Hairpin, yes, that's done.
And Bruno Spengler also returning.
A little love tap there for good measure as well.
Bruno Spengler returning from his drive-through penalty, also having a go at Martin Tomczyk now, who's sustained some damage to the front of the car. You can actually see that now. Whilst all this is going on, Wittmann, his lead at 7.2 seconds is over Tom Blomqvist P2, and then Eduardo Mortara P3 before we find Jamie Green at P4.
As a note, Dave, Spengler, he served the drive-through penalty, and we see he's already in a battle with the pack. Okay, it's not going to be for the points, but it's going to be a battle for the pack. The reason for this is Felix Rosenqvist is probably holding up the field quite a bit. He's in the 1:28, while everyone in front of him is in the mid or early 1:26s, and that's why you see the field. This gaggle is falling further and further and further away from the front of the field. Spengler is, in a sense, you could say his penalty's been minimised because he's actually, rather than falling straight to the back, he's actually ended up in the middle of the group.
So there is...
that's Juncadella and Da Costa, isn't it?
Yes.
They're battling over 18th and 19th place, and Juncadella has nailed that position. It won't mean too much for him. He's going to be too disappointed. It's 18th place. It's not going to offer him any points.
Just see Gary Pafford at the back of that, who's running in P20 following that turnaround, which was, should we say, assisted by Timo Scheider.
The other thing, Dave, is some people might ask, well, you know, these some guys, Scheider, for Spengler, for example, got drive-through penalties. Pafford's had a spin. Juncadella has fallen down the order. You know, why do they keep on racing? Why are they still on track? The reason is they've got another race tomorrow. They're gaining mileage. They're feeling the development of the circuit. They're feeling the development of the tyres throughout this race. It's no good necessarily pulling straight into the circuit if you have a clean car, while Mortara, meanwhile, pushing on the rear of Blomqvist for P2. Not quite yet, but thereabouts. Mortara, he's sticking close.
Now, Mortara is out of DRS, but he knows he's only got 4 minutes left to make this move. So Tom Blomqvist then stoic in his defence of that P2 position at the moment, but he has got company from the Edo Mortara Mortara car. Edo is closer than he's been over the last few laps, and he knows that time is running out for him to convert P3 into P2. Marco Wittmann, we don't even need to worry about. He's 7 seconds up the road. We're on board with Jamie Green, who's running in P4. He's a couple of seconds behind Eduardo Mortara. As you can see, we're on that splitter cam as he goes through the turn there and out to turn 7 now as they head down to the behind the paddock. This is brilliant camera angle that we were able to bring you, which actually is showing you ahead the battle that's going on between Eduardo Mortara and Tom Blomqvist. So Blomqvist now turning into the NGK chicane, and Eduardo Mortara, this is where he needs to be really close. It's on the exit of this turn to start setting up a move for turn number 1.
I do wonder, Dave, in all of the incidents that they've actually had during this race, have their tyres actually taken a bit of damage as well? Are they losing maybe a little bit of grip, a little bit of pace, and that's allowing Mortara to at least stay close, even if there is no DRS?
Inevitably, the tyres will have worn. They're getting towards the end of the race, and something that we learned, and you can see it really there, is that there are so many different pieces of tarmac around this track where bits and pieces have been resurfaced as and when necessary. This in Europe is one of the most used circuits, and subsequently it really does get worn and worn and worn, and therefore the tarmac is kind of piecemeal put back, isn't it, and repaired as necessary, and the surface changes between various sections of the circuit. This was all told to us by Hankook, and you can bet your bottom dollar that, of course, Blomqvist, he's not pushed hard, but he's just been consistently quick, hasn't he? And he's taken a lot out, and that does mean perhaps that he is falling into the clutches a little bit more of Eduardo Mortara. But
well, he's had a couple of scrapes as well.
Yes.
So we possibly need to take into account, has he maybe had extra wear or extra damage on the tyres from going over the runoff areas here and there? Hasn't seemed to have affected Mortara too much, so you never know.
Well, the time is running out. There's just a minute and a half plus a lap to do. And Wittmann, Blomqvist and Mortara as P1 and P2 and P3. There's Maxime Martin, who's running in P8, who's sort of out on his own, really. Here's Mortara. Is he going to be able to... He's coming from a long way back, but he carries the speed and brakes much, much later than Tom Blomqvist. But Blomqvist is smooth through that turn number 1, which is almost a hairpin. Into turn 2 and 3 for the Mercedes Arena goes the BMW and the Audi, followed by the Audi of Jamie Green running in P4. What, of course, all this means in terms of the championship is it's Wittmann, this man that we're on board with, who is going to max out the points haul, whereas Robert Wickens is going to get very few for his current P9 position.
And I think for Mortara, he's losing a couple of tenths in the first sector and maybe losing a little bit in the final sector. He gains in the middle sector. So it really is a game of to and fro between Blomqvist and Mortara at the moment. Mortara is not sufficiently quick enough over the right sections of the circuit to actually get close enough to make a move. And incidentally, one of the areas where Blomqvist is making an advantage over Mortara is in that final sector, where you're going down to start-finish, you get out of the final corner and down to start-finish straight.
So we follow then our race leader, Marco Wittmann then, who crosses the timing line now. So Marco Wittmann, P1. P2 is Tom Blomqvist, P3 is Eduardo Mortara. You can see the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen, and if the driver's abbreviation is illuminated in red, it means that they have lost all or used all their DRS. And Blomqvist, who does still have DRS available to him, whereas Eduardo Mortara does not. And now Jamie Green, who does still have DRS available to him, is getting a little bit closer to Eduardo Mortara now. Green is ahead of Mortara in the points. Over the final couple of laps, are they going to ask Eduardo Mortara to give that position back to Jamie Green? Jamie Green, certainly after, as you said, many, many laps of trying to get past Tom Blomqvist, allowed Edo through to have a go at him. It hasn't worked, therefore is Jamie Green going to be gifted that position back?
I mean, that's something for the Audi guys to decide. It's a tricky one because both of them are in a battle. it's not as if Mortara is not in the championship and he's just had a go trying to get past Blomqvist. Both of them are in a battle.
In fairness, Green was ahead of him.
Absolutely right. I mean, and it'd be interesting to know if that is an agreement, if that would be an agreement between drivers, or if that's an agreement between the teams. If it's the teams, we probably might hear it over the team radio quite shortly.
Well, it was interesting. We had one of our onboard shots just a moment ago as Eduardo Mortara really looked into his rearview mirror. Last lap started then for Marco Wittmann. Green gets ever closer to Eduardo Mortara. Now there's just one lap left. And
if it is going to happen, it has to happen pretty now.
So Mortara and Green run down to turn number 1. And Timo Glock then, who's having a good race in P5. There's Paul de Resta, who we've hardly mentioned, who's in P6. Lucas Auer P7, bearing in mind that Lucas Auer potentially should have started the race at pole position, but he had a 5-place grid penalty carried over from the Moscow Raceway, which he had to take, and that put him down to P6 on the grid, and lost a place overall, but will still finish P7 with Martin Wickens and Maximilian Goertz occupying the next points-paying positions.
That might hurt a bit for our inside, because he knows he has the pace. He had the pace to get the fastest lap in qualifying.
Right, we're on board with, we were on board with Jamie Green, who uses his DRS now, but honest.
Is this it? I think this is it. Yeah, they're making a swap. Green back into 3rd place. Honourable move there between the Audi drivers. Mortara was given an opportunity to try and go past Blomqvist, and
Wittmann
just won our home race, Marco. Thank you, thanks.
He locks
Brilliant
up the tyres. Marco Wittmann takes P1.
Thank you guys. Home win for RMG. Thank you guys. What a great car.
Blomqvist P2. Green P3. Mortara P4. Glock P5.
It was my mistake today. I need to apologize because I love your...
So there the RMG team are celebrating. And, well, Hans-Jürgen Abt is far from celebrating.
2016 and I won in the third. Everything's off, and then I was about to get the car anyway. The car was good. I'm pretty sure we could have carried for the lead today. Anyway.
Robert Wickens then.
Copy Edo, save fuel, and...
We were on board with just for a moment Eduardo Mortara now, but here is our race winner, Marco Wittmann, and he's put himself into a fantastic position at the top of the championship going into tomorrow's race, because he banks max points out of race number 1.
Mercedes are not going to be overly pleased with today's running at all, I don't think.
Jens Marquardt is the boss of BMW DTM. He's with Verena now.
And the boss is very happy. Congratulations, a really, really perfect race. How happy could you possibly be?
Well, it's super, really. I mean, Marco did a fantastic job, but also Tom, Timo and Maxime as well. I mean, it was a fantastic race. I mean, often Saturday is a bit difficult without stop, but I think today you've seen why DTM is the best touring car championship in the world. It was really touring car at its best, and Marco did a great job. And yeah, just fantastic for us overall, obviously, as well. For manufacturers and teams championship, I mean, both RBM and RMG very well up there, and tough fights, but good, fair, I have to say, and yeah, super.
Speaking of a lot of fights or tough fights, what do you say about the little thing between Blomqvist and Mortara?
I think yeah, there was some hitting from both sides, but I think it was still what you would normally expect in touring car running. And I haven't looked at it too deep, but at the moment I would say it was okay.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations again. Back to you.
Well done, Verena. Thank you very much. As we see Eduardo Mortara then into the Parc Fermé, and Wittmann then taking the win, and with a 7.1 second margin. So here is confirmation of the result then. Wittmann, Blomqvist, Green, the 1, 2, 3, with Mortara, Glock and Paul de Resta in the next 3 places. Then it was Auer, Martin, Wickens, Maximilian Goertz, Nico Müller and Felix Rosenqvist, with Vitoris, Rockenfeller, Molina, Tomczyk, Junckadea, Spangler and Paffett. Then it was Da Costa, Scheider and Farfus and Ekstrom and Tombe were out of the race. There is Jamie Green. Some beads of sweat on Jamie Green's face, that's for sure. he takes that P3, which certainly banks some points for him. Robert Wickens, of course, the big loser in the points haul for the Drivers' Championship, with only managing to take P9. So there is our race winner out of the car, Marco Wittmann.
Do you think he's even had a bead of sweat on him?
He's certainly been in a privileged position at the front, hasn't he, where he hasn't had to worry or work too hard, that's for sure. But what we can say is that whatever the result is on Saturday, don't think that's a form guide for Sunday, because it isn't. Everything could change tomorrow.
It's strategy tomorrow. It's about tyre strategy. It's about if you maybe don't have the best qualifying, you can actually make positions up. It's a different animal, Dave.
You're absolutely right. So, celebrations going on then, as you would expect. And Wittmann, Blomqvist and Green, those that we're going to see up there on the podium in due course. And there, it's a fantastic heli shot of the Nürburgring circuit. Now, look at this, 155 points to 120 to 119.
It's a big lead for Marco.
And what there is now is just a point between Wickens and Green, isn't it?
And Mortara's only a couple of more points behind as well.
So there, the celebrations then. Going to make it fascinating going into tomorrow's race, where the weather predictions are similar for today.
Wickens, Mercedes and Wickens, they don't really have much choice. They got to go for it tomorrow. They need a big result, and they need really the BMWs to have a slightly more difficult race. Whether that's going to happen, say, with the weight change, with the weights as they are at the moment, it's going to be a tricky one. It really is going to be a tricky one for tomorrow. And I think Mercedes is going to be scratching their heads a bit as well.
Well, of course, we've got another qualifying session to come tomorrow, haven't we, before we can ascertain who's going to be running what in race number 2. But we watched Marco being congratulated by his team, who have done a great job in terms of engineering that car for Marco Wittmann, Team RMG. And as Jens Marquardt said, both RMG and RBM in the hunt for the team's title, if you like, and Marco Wittmann's certainly in the hunt for the championship title, and now with a better than he had margin going into race number 2 tomorrow. It's a phenomenal circuit, this Nürburgring circuit, and we're seeing it, and many parts of the Nordschleife as well, as we go back down, looking from the podium, which is where the drivers will be heading after the media circus, of course, have finished interviewing them down there. And you can see Nico Muller and Timo Scheider walking away. I reckon there's going to be an interesting conversation perhaps between Timo Scheider and Gary Paffett at some point, because it's incredible coming together.
I do love the hand movements there from the drivers, just showing the incidents from their point of view to a degree. But I really don't think. I think Timo's just showing his view of the clash with Gary, but I don't think really Timo has a leg to stand on in that instant.
Well, Tom Blomqvist has taken P2, and he's with Verena.
He certainly is, and he's a very happy man, I bet. Congratulations to a fantastic second place. How does it feel? And one question, though, what do you say about the little incidents with Mortara?
Yeah, it got a bit feisty there for a moment, but I mean, starting off, the guys did a great job from yesterday and this morning when we weren't really happy with the car, and we managed to qualify up the front there, and then yeah, the race was going quite well, but I lost the DRS from Marco, and then I started to struggle a bit with the tires, and then, you know, the Audi guys put me under a lot of pressure, and yeah, and I got a bit of a big surprise there coming into the chicane. It was quite a heavy hit, I have to say. I thought maybe I, have a lot more damage than I did, but luckily I just managed to make the corner, and then again, because I lost so much time at the chicane, I was under a big attack in turn 1, so it was a bit of a mess for a moment, but yeah, I managed to come through in the end.
I was just going to say, you certainly kept your cool after all.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but I'm definitely really happy with the second result.
Can be. Congratulations. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Verena, as we take super slow-mo then of our race winner, Marco Wittmann. We've heard from Tom Blomqvist, and in due course we'll be hearing from the race winner and also from our P3 driver, Jamie Green, as well.
It's the third win of the season for Marco, having picked up race number 1 in Moscow. And
it's the fourth second for Tom Blomqvist.
It is, actually, and he is very much on a roll this season. You can really see him developing into quite a good, consistent DTM driver.
And of course, news broke across the weekend that Tom is going to be doing some GT racing as well.
The Blancpain series next year, and it's good, you know. It gives him experience of other cars and helps build his knowledge really and his experience in motor racing, and that's very valuable for these drivers. He's still a young guy, you know.
Yeah, of course, it was front runner, wasn't he, in the FIA F3 European Championship for so long. Maxime Martin then finishing in P8 as we look at the Mercedes-Benz arena there. And Robert Wickens, the Mercedes-Benz driver that was the charge master in terms of the championship, is, well, got indeed work to do tomorrow. And as you have rightly said, they'll be scratching their heads trying to find answers. But it's a completely different animal, the race tomorrow, because of the mandatory pit stop, longer race. A lot more can be done, can't it, in terms of strategy from the team's point of view.
I see several drivers walking on the pit lane there, and you know, for drivers, it's not always the walk you want to do, because you want to be the guy who's actually at the far end of the pit lane in Parc Ferme and on the podium.
Yeah.
There's several drivers there who'll probably be sitting back thinking, wondering what happened to their races.
Well, it was, I mean, Tom Blomqvist said it was feisty, his incident with Mortara. Well, I think feisty is a good word to use for the entire race, to be honest, some of the battles we saw.
Because we had Tambay in the incident with Junkadea as well, and Scheider and Paffett, and then the contretemps, shall we say, between Blomqvist, Mortara, and then you had Green and Spengler get involved in that as well.
Yeah, there was plenty of incidents going on, that's certainly for sure. And don't doubt that there'll be plenty more of them tomorrow. Make sure you join us for the slightly longer race tomorrow with that mandatory pit stop. And as I said, just as the cars were being brought into Parc Ferme, you can never take a look at the result of Saturday and think that that will give you a form guide for Sunday. It just doesn't work like that.
The other aspect of it, Dave, is because this is not a pit stop race, it's not what you might consider a strategy race as such. The fight for positions is a little bit more feisty. You know, you really have to push other drivers and push forward to get the positions further up the ladder.
Jamie Green there in conversation with Daniel Schuster from Audi, just ahead of the podium ceremony getting underway, which can only be just a few moments away, I would suggest. The drivers are all up there standing by. And Wittmann, the race winner, is with Verena.
Yep, and I've got him just quickly before we start here with the ceremony. Congratulations to a perfect race.
Yeah, it was a good race for me. Good start, good race, and won it. It's great.
And off you go to the podium. So that's a very happy Marco Wittmann, but it's just short. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Well done for getting in before the podium ceremony. And drivers being ushered out onto the podium, and Marco Wittmann taking the top step on it. There's Tom Blomqvist. So 2 BMWs, P1 and P2, before we see Jamie Green for Audi, who takes that P3 ahead of Eduardo Mortara, who was P4. National anthem then is about to play out for Marco Wittmann, but just before that, of course, delight there for the team as well. Here comes the national anthem then. Well, we respected the national anthem as it played out before explaining what the laughter is all about. Do you want to tell them or me?
Well, I believe suddenly Jamie Green is Italian. Of course, the last lap change between Mortara and Green to bring.
And the flag man wasn't quick enough.
No, I think Green and Mortara are a little bit quicker.
Yeah. So Jens Marquardt down there. That's a big handshake, isn't it? And it's a big trophy as well.
This is a big race for BMW.
Tom Blomqvist then with the trophy. Oh, jolly good trophies, I have to say. And Jamie Green then.
I don't think Jamie can be too disappointed really with third place. Audis were just thereabouts. We saw Mortara get close to taking second place, but it just didn't happen.
You don't very often see Stefan Reinhold without a smile on his face, do you?
No.
He'll be pretty happy today.
I think he's going to be very. I think the entire BMW organisation is going to be very happy today. There might be a slight party tonight somewhere, I believe.
Possibly so.
I don't think I've got an invite yet. Have you?
Yeah. Right, here comes the. Reinhold's going to get it. Whoa, I have to say, he was like a pressure washer on Wittmann, wasn't he? Brilliant stuff. So the celebrations up there on the podium then for the 1, 2, 3, Marco Wittmann, Tom Blomqvist and Jamie Green, and Reinhold really getting in now. He's just accepted it, hasn't he?
And you see, for the viewers at home, that's why there's so much in the way of spare BMW uniforms.
And that's why there's a washing machine
yes.
in the back of the hospitality unit. Now you know. So some great shots then of the celebrations going on the podium. What a feisty DTM race that was. And well, there's certainly going to be plenty to talk about post-race, that's for sure. There's a number of conversations that will be going on. You can bet your bottom dollar on that, and lots of head-scratching ahead of the race to come tomorrow as well. And there, the team all celebrating with their drivers up there on the podium also. Jamie Green then, is he an Italian stallion? No, he's like me, he's a Brit, Verena.
He certainly is, but I'm going to ask how it feels. So first of all, congratulations to a third place. And did you feel a bit like an Italian stallion just for a second?
The guys were pointing at me, and I thought, oh, maybe my hair's a bit silly or hair stand, because I took my hat off, obviously. I was like, what are they pointing at? And then they pointed up, and I saw the Italian flag. So, yeah, I'm definitely not Italian, but ciao.
Ciao. But just quickly about the strategy from Audi, I guess, because of the swapping, what exactly, perhaps you can just explain what Audi was trying to do with the strategy?
Overtake Mr. Blomqvist. It's pretty simple, but both me and Edo couldn't do it, so in the end it was status quo.
So fair enough, so you're going to enjoy the third place now, and I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow's race, and I bet you too.
Yeah, I think we were quick, especially me at the first half of the race, but just wasn't possible to overtake, so we need to get in front of them and at the first corner tomorrow, and then I think we can do better.
Well, best of luck for tomorrow then, but for now enjoy the third place. Thank you to the commentators, and we're going to see you tomorrow. So bye-bye, here are the highlights of the day.
Go!